morning
Good
from
morning.
The sun's out to welcome you, Jaclyn.
Well, thank you, because I'll take it because it's still dark here where I'm at. It's really early. It's okay.
So it's dark outside.
It is only 6:10 a.m. here in Traverse City, Michigan, and I got up just for you and even put on makeup this early.
Yes.
It's pretty early. It's okay, though.
I love, because I have written it so many times the last 2 weeks, your name. So what I want you to tell the audience is, what's so significant about JR and Jaclyn Dugan Roof?
Sure. So yes, Jaclyn Roof is actually my married name. Jaclyn Dugan Roof is, I hyphenated when I married just in case, which is probably good because now I'm getting divorced. So I always thought I should probably keep that Dugan name in there. And I love my Dugan roots. Obviously I have it tattooed on my arm, so that tells you a little bit of something. But yeah, Jaclyn Roof is obviously my name, and I go sometimes by Jaclyn Dugan Roof, but I try to be a little more professional. So JR, which I'm going to totally own that. JR, I'm going to totally walk around. I'm just JR. JR is who I am. So yeah, that's me.
Now that I love. Exactly that. JR is who I am. I'll walk on JR.
Yes, JR is it. And my tagline is all badassery, no BS. So if that doesn't tell you something, that pretty much sums it up right there.
It sums it up. With the Dugan and the tattoo. Explain the Dugan bit.
Oh, so that comes from my dad's side of the family. We are very Irish, very, very Irish. We were just talking about this actually, just my Irish roots. And I love it. And I love the fact that my dad passed away 5 years ago. This past October would marked 5 years. And he was my rock. He was just a fun-loving, very easygoing, pretty quiet guy. But I think he also lived with 3 women who are very, very strong-willed. So the fact that he survived almost 80 years with half of his life, more than half of his life with us, is mind-boggling to me. But he was a great, great man. And I love my Irish roots. I've been to Ireland and I felt so at home when I was there. I just love it.
What's your why, Jaclyn?
My why, that's a great question. So my why for me is to really help impact others at the end of the day, but it's also been for my own journey. So to kind of break the mold of who I am or who everyone thought I was, and then kind of blossoming into this woman, mother of 2, single mother of 2 crazy girls, and just kind of blossoming into this person who I finally broke through the molds. So my entire life was kind of molded for me. The road was paved. Everyone thought I was going down that. And then all of a sudden I end up with half-shaved head, blue hair, tattoos everywhere, and unleashing all of this badassery into the world. So it's been quite helpful for me to go on this journey, but also to help people and to really for me to show up as who they are. That's my passion. When someone talks about the light bulb goes out or they feel this sense of confidence, or I like to call my badassery, and they're just like, that's who I am. And they're sort of unapologetic about it. That makes me all warm and fuzzy inside. I'm like, yes, like that's what we need people to do. We need you to show up as who you are and be able to learn in the process and grow, but to kind of break that mold to then redefine what that is.
You woke up very early this morning and we had a very sort of quick chat before starting the recording, and you said to me, well, I'm usually in the gym at this point. So how
it's crazy to be like makeup this early, like dressed. It's kind of different, but it's great.
How much is fitness a part of your life?
It is a huge part. It comes and goes. It's now a huge part, even more than before. So growing up, I was an athlete. So I always played sports. I was always the girl that you picked to be on your kickball team, or I always played flag football with the boys. I was a tomboy through and through, for sure. But I was definitely a good athlete. That's kind of where I found my spot. That's kind of where I would shine. I felt very powerful then. I was a softball catcher, so I would get down in the dirt. I'd get super dirty. I'd get really into it. I loved it. Everything about sports, athletics, fitness per se, right? Then I went away to college and I thought I was going to study political science and become a judge. That was my plan. I know, right? I think we need some more blue hair judges on in the world today, but that was another lifetime, right? Or maybe another lifetime coming up. And so I was like, what do I study? And I went into political science because I grew up in the political world. So I just thought for sure that's where I was going to go. And that's what I was going to do with my life. And then I took a poli-sci course and I hated it. I hated everything about it. And I'm like, this is not where I'm supposed to be. I ended up taking an epidemiology course and sort of like an overall community health course with this professor who was super cool, laid back, kind of funky, quirky. And I was like, that's what I'm supposed to do. That's what I'm supposed to be doing. So I switched my major to health administration. That's what I graduated with. My plan was to always run a hospital because, again, I still had those aspirations, those business, those connected political. It made sense, right? Yeah, not running a hospital right now, but I went into kind of the fitness realm, and my internship was in a gym, and I've always been in fitness, some sort of physical activity. So I've really embraced it for myself over the past probably 2-3 years of really defining where I fit in the fitness world. And just within the past couple months, I'm finally embracing this idea that every time I think about where I'm supposed to be, it has something to do with some sort of physical activity, fitness, wellness, health, something like that. So at the age of 38, I'm finally embracing this idea of like, oh yeah, maybe that's what I'm supposed to be doing. So I'm starting to embrace that more and more as I journey and discover who I want to be and how I want to show up.
I can hear the power and the fitness power within you. I can see it physically. Mm-hmm. When you mentioned that you're an athlete, because I've been a fitness professional for nearly 40 years. Nice. I spot an athlete. And you're right to say it's with you, because even now, especially during COVID, I'm somebody that won't do what everybody else does in my age group. Sure. I just get out there.
Right.
and I don't go to a gym because they're closed where we are.
Sure. But
I get out to nature and I hike. So I think it's wise to always have that within your makeup, because that's who you are, and embrace it.
It is.
It's fascinating to hear you say about being a judge, because I think you would make a good judge.
I think so too. I don't think I should have to do the schooling. Just put me in. Yeah, I can totally make.
Absolutely. I don't know if have you heard of Judge Rinder in the UK?
I have not.
No, you put it into Google and check him out. He would be on in the morning and to look at, he's very good looking and he's gregarious, but he's lethal as a judge.
Nice.
And now he's doing his historic roots, the genetic family tree route. So he's gone from being the judge that's there to somebody who is quite emotional because he's learning who his forefather, etc.
I like it. Very cool.
Judge Rinder.
Okay, I'll look him up for sure.
Yeah, but I can see you with a JR.
Right.
The walk-on part, JR.
Right. Very fair. Very fair.
It is. So with I can sort of think about you when I first saw you, and that was during an invite that I gave for online event networking.
Sure.
And we tried AirMeet, which is a new software. And you came on because I asked you to raise your hand. And believe it or not, a lot of people just didn't know how to raise their hand because they couldn't find the button.
Sure.
But Jaclyn JR, she found the button. And you came on, you were so clear, so on point, so powerful. You didn't have to say the words power, passion, purpose. It was there. It's in you. So you actually speak, you walk, I call it, you walk the talk.
Well, thank you. I try to. It's very easy. I think that's kind of where I see sort of in my industry, even in the fitness or the coaching. And I've gone into the coaching industry, and I'm just like, there's like this disconnect a lot of times where people feel like what you're preaching to me, like, are you living it? And like, this is stuff that I live every single day. So I'm telling people, or I'm encouraging people, or I'm, putting stuff out there. I've either tried it, it's not something I haven't tried myself, or I'm currently doing the work. So a lot of times I'm doing the work right alongside, like I have to get up and go to the gym too. Like I don't wake up I mean, I'm not like totally maximum, level of fitness, but I still have to get up in the morning and go to the gym. If it were easy enough to just like roll out of bed and everything was fine and I could just teach people fitness and how to box and do all that and not do anything, it'd be great. But here's the thing is I still have to do the work. So I think that that's where sometimes the disconnect happens, is that we're out there preaching to everybody, but we're not walking the talk. We're just this and not actually doing the work. So I tend to gravitate towards people, and I tend to bring people in my circle that want to do the work. This isn't easy. It isn't easy to define who you are or how you want to show up or reset your body or do the fitness or do any of the inner work. Every day I have to stop myself and do some sort of inner work as well, because it's a whole person. It's not just one facet. And I do everything that I preach out there to people. I think that that's where I like to be, at least. For me to sleep at night, I have to know that what I'm putting out into the world, I've actually done or I'm doing. But that's just my personality as well. Some people aren't like that. Kudos to them if that's how they want to live. I can't do it.
Yeah, that's very true in terms of the army. I have a son who's a sergeant major in the army.
Okay.
He's very fit and he's into road racing. So that's it.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
They choose a particular exercise pattern, and it's cycling. And he always said to me when he was just, when I say just a gunner, starting off as a paratrooper, I have to lead from the front. I have to do what I'm asking them to do. And in fairness to him, 20 odd years later, he's doing and has done. And I think that commands respect. So you have followers as a result of that, because of the respect. You don't have to drag them. They just follow you because they see you as a great leader. Exactly.
I remember I actually ran our Chamber of Commerce in my hometown in my early 20s. And I will never forget the interview process. I walked in and there's a room full of board of directors, most of them I knew because, again, I had grown up in that world. And they were like, oh yeah, we're having this interview. And there's like 25 of them or 26. I mean, there's just tons of people in this room. And I'm like 22 at the time. And I'm like, okay, great. Yeah, I'll walk in this interview. And I remember, they ask you all the standard interview questions. And I'll never forget one question that will always stick out, is that a gentleman that I know very well said, okay, Jaclyn, here's a scenario. You go in the bathroom here, the women's bathroom, and the toilet paper roll is out. What do? And I'm like, you go and get a different roll of toilet paper, you put on the toilet paper roll. And he's like, okay, good answer. So I asked him later, I'm like, why did you ask me that question? I'm 22. I'm like, why are they asking me about toilet paper? I thought they were going to ask me like, what do you envision for the organization? All this like foo-foo stuff, right? And he goes, because right then it told me that you're a person that will do the work. Some people would have said, oh, isn't there like a janitorial service that comes in and changes it? Or I don't know, where's the toilet paper? Like all this stuff. He's like, you just said, I'll find the toilet paper and replace it. He said that right there is you leading from the front, because ain't no one going to come and change your toilet paper roll in the office. And I'm like, that is genius. And I proved myself to be one of the most powerful leaders they had in that organization. But it was mind-boggling to me. And I was just like, that totally makes sense. And from then on, I'm like, that's how I want to lead. I don't want to just expect everyone to do everything. I have to change the toilet paper roll. If it runs out, I got to change it. And two, because there was no janitorial service, because it was a nonprofit organization. So there was nobody coming in to change it, literally nobody coming in to change them. I had to do it. But yeah, it was just very, very good lesson learned early on in life.
A very basic lesson, and very brave, very courageous. So a doer, an activator.
Yeah. Oh, for sure. Sometimes 150% too much.
Yes.
It's okay. I'm still learning.
That leads me into the next question. Yeah. When you look at the exterior, you're a fit-looking woman, you're a good-looking woman. What is the real person behind it? And does the exterior portray who you are internally?
So I like to sort of challenge people a little bit. So I have obviously, usually, I mean, now it's blue. It's been all sorts of crazy colors. And tattoos, and I'm a physical stature. I command presence when I walk in a room for sure. I think this is where I like to challenge people, because I feel like a lot of times I get this, and I'm told this a lot. I was just told this yesterday, actually. I was told to dial it back. Actually, I'm like, I don't think that's going to work so well. I can't do that. So I think people just assume and make assumptions like, here's this badass woman, and I give off that aura, which we were kind of talking about, and just very confident, which is great. I love that. But I also like to challenge people a little bit. And this is where my rebel spirit comes in a little bit of, don't just judge a book by its cover. Have a conversation with me. I am one of the most laid back, pretty easygoing. I love connection with people. I'm just passionate, but I'm also super compassionate. I won the most compassionate student award in 8th grade. I mean, come on. Like, that says a lot, right? So I feel like once I'm sort of able, and I kind of like that challenge. I like watching people like, oh, I don't know. And then they start talking and their guard goes down. And it's like, oh, okay, I can vibe with her, and oh, this good energy. And I think for me, I didn't want to embrace that. I was kind of always putting aside that sort of, actually, no, I was doing the opposite. I was really, really touting and pushing the badass side of me, this physical aura, this presence and all that, because that's how I was brought up. I have a political mother, and she's also a union electrician. So we are very, very like bold, very strong women, right? And then I started to embrace a little bit of the softer side of me. And I feel like I'm doing more of that, where I'm kind of exposing that a little bit of, I'm just here, I'm human. We're all connected in some way. Have a conversation, figure it out. And my energy is more positive now than it was before. Because I was very like, no one's going to mess with me. I got this kind of this macho, very alpha. And then now I'm just like, no, but I like connection, like, let's connect and talk, and I can impact. And who are you? And for someone to ask someone that, they're like, wait, you want to know who I am? I'm like, yeah, I'm just this lady with crazy blue hair. I'm also a mother of 2, and I'm human. So I kind of like to challenge that a little bit and kind of catch people off guard. And they're like, wait, she's actually really easygoing and cool. And I vibe with her. So I got told a lot recently, my energy, my positive energy, and I just want to soak up more. I'm like, yes, these are the people I want, not the people that tell me to dial it back. I'm like, you got to go.
Well, JR, walk on as a JR, just doesn't have to dial anything back.
Right.
You fill the screen. I woke up this morning and I did, because I meditate. So that was my next question. Do you meditate? But the one thing I did this morning, and it was because of you, and later on, I'm also speaking to a lady that lives in Doncaster. And I wanted it to be a kind of a special morning, because you mean quite a lot to me in terms of being a guest. So I tuned in, and it was the Hicks lady from the Hayes. Yeah. So it was all about, this is a good day. This really is a good day.
Nice.
Look for something really good to happen.
Nice.
So that's my question to you. Do you meditate, and do you do affirmations?
I do. So I have recently acquired a beautiful mala, just a handmade, actually a girl that I know made it. And I've been looking for one for a while. And growing up, we didn't do any I grew up Catholic. So of course I went to Catholic school and church and all that good stuff. My family never went with me. I went by myself. But so I grew up in that world. And then when I went to college, it just kind of fell off, whatever. So I've always been searching kind of the spiritual realm of who I am and what that looks like for me and all that good stuff. So I recently found a mala, and I have been doing every day. I do my affirmations. I have just a short, because for me to meditate, I've noticed it can't be too long. I either have to be like all in, or it has to be kind of short. Like it can be an all day meditation, or it has to be like 10 minutes. that's like all I can focus. So I will sit down and do that and do some sort of affirmations with that. Or I do have a printout right by my altar, because I'm big into my moon rituals. I do have an altar and things like that, that I do have where it says, why am I so? And it just goes down the list. And it's all these words. So I can subconsciously, I just read them off, and then I can subconsciously, my subconscious answers it for me, for lack of better words. And then I just go about my day. So I try to fit in where I can, but I do try to intentionally take 10 to 15 minutes at least every single day, either quiet, meditate with my mala, just stop for 2 seconds and just focus on the inward. Because I feel like the inner work has been what has totally changed my life. I'm a doer. Naturally, I can get a lot of stuff done, but for me to stop is a big deal. Yeah. And that has been very challenging, but it's also been absolutely life-changing. I don't think I would have made any of the decisions I've made in the last 6 months, especially without that.
I identify with you exactly in the same place there. So are you able to share an affirmation with us this morning? Do you remember your affirmation or any of them?
Sure. So for me, it's very simple. I do it through the app Insight Timer. There's 108 affirmations on there, and the woman just goes through and she just says, I am whatever it might be, which actually fits well because along with my name tattoo, I also have tattoos on my wrist where I started late last year, I started tattooing words on my wrist. So I put on my left hand, my left wrist, I am. And then I have on my right, I have a list of words. It'll be funky because it's like a weird thing. So I have a list of words. So when I put my hands together, I can see I am, and they're all words that I identify with. So enough, powerful, clear, badass, of course, is tattooed on me, beautiful, and worthy. So I try to do these things when there's some sort of life, a certain date, or something happens or whatever it might be to commemorate them. And then these words go. So for me, that's very simple for me to just go, I am worthy. I am beautiful. I am capable of making millions. I am a powerful speaker, whatever it might be. That's very simple, succinct to me, and it gets to the point.
The speaking part, I'm glad you brought up there. Obviously, I went and met a lot of Americans through London Reel because Roger Brooks started American Reel, and I connected immediately with the two and met so many people from Michigan, Minnesota, New Jersey, etc., etc.
I say Minnesota.
Yeah,
I love hearing like the other accents and dialects. It's just saying different words. Like I'm like Minnesota. I mean, I clearly come from the Midwest. Like there's no fancy way for me to say it.
Exactly. But it's just so lovely to think that you're so far away in terms of mileage and yet so close in terms of once you started explaining about how you pronounce things in the Irish setting, that really got me giggling because I identify so much with that. It's the food power that you've got, and you've got a business that you obviously did very well, you're successful at, and it's called?
Well, I call it Wholeistic Baddassery. That's kind of my brand, I guess you could call it.
Yes.
I go into, so what I do is I kind of take my brand. I am my brand. Okay. Obviously JR is my brand. Jaclyn Roof is my brand. But I go with this holistic badassery approach. So I have picked brands and fellow coaches. I'm all about collaboration. So I'm not wanting to be the expert in any like one thing necessarily. I like when people collaborate together. So I partner with coaches, I partner with brands, Arbonne, we're just kind of giggling about that, being one, because again, for me in the fitness realm and nutrition, that's what I found that works for me. And I love it. And then I have other brands that I kind of partner with and other coaches and things. So there's all these kind of multifaceted parts of Jaclyn Roof, Holistic Badassery, because again, it's all of these things together. So I have what I call the 5 B's of badassery. So for me, it's your brain, your body, your brand, your boundaries, and your being. So I take this and I work with people and I'm like, okay, where's one area that we need to work on? We also need to be focused on all of them together. It isn't just one over the other. It isn't just your mindset and then you can let your body go to crap. It isn't just your body, but then you can let your mind go to crap. Like, let's talk about all of them. You have to have boundaries. You have to have a spiritual, what's your being, what's your self-care, what's your spiritual, in your brand. How do you show up? Where are you showing up how you want to show up? I was not showing up how I wanted. Once I embraced this weird, quirky, crazy kind of self of me, I was like, that's how I show up. I have never felt more powerful. So I could have stayed in that mold that was molded for me. But when I broke through that, that felt more powerful and I can show up as me. And that's what the world needs, right? The world needs all of us to show up as who we are and who we want to be. So it's all this kind of multifaceted, holistic badassery is how I approach it. And that's so many different things. I teach boxing to clients here in Traverse City, Michigan. I just added a ton of them to my week. So which is really cool because again, empowering physical activity, it gets me moving, it gets them moving. I love it. I love to see, especially women, when they wrap their hands and they're like, wait, I get to hit stuff? I'm like, you do. And it's really fun. Okay, let's go. So again, kind of that challenge and just kind of finding what, again, the things I use and the things I believe in, because I will never, ever promote or share anything with anyone that I have not tried. I locked myself in a cage. I did a cage fight. I earned that right. So now I know how empowering it is to be there with your hands wrapped. Not necessarily someone coming at you. We don't have to get that crazy, but just having your hands wrapped and knowing at the end of the day, it's you. Yeah. It's really you at the end of the day.
So the earrings that you have are Arbonne. Yeah. And it's very clever marketing.
Yes, isn't it? Yeah, I love them. And they're green. They're that Kelly green, that Irish green coming out.
Yeah. The connectivity part is where the power lies. So as soon as you connect, because you are being who you really are, tell us who has been your influence, your largest influence, your big inspirer.
Sure. Well, there's so many. Naturally, I would have to say, and I know everyone's gonna be like, of course it is, but it's gonna be an interesting explanation. So of course, my mother.
Yeah.
Good, bad, and indifferent. My mother is a very powerful woman. She's very much like me. We can usually only last about 10 minutes in the same room without arguing about something or going like this, which has been a good lesson to learn for me. And I've learned how to kind of buffer that a little bit.
Yes.
Luckily, I have a lot of my dad in me too, so I can walk away and all that good stuff when she keeps going. But for me, I watched her journey as a woman who went into a man's world. I mean, she's a union electrician, construction worker, like that was her thing. And then she got injured on the job. So she was in a man's world. She was the first female electrician where we lived. So big deal. One of the guys kind of, made a name for herself, held her own, all that kind of stuff. Then she got injured. Then she started going into the community service, political realm, and watching her go through that and seeing the journey that she took even personally and that kind of growth that I saw happen as a younger kid and all that good stuff. Then when I went to college, I broke away from it a little bit. She went into state politics. So she was our state rep for 10 or 12 years, somewhere in there, worked hard. She's a very hard worker. So now on the other side too, she taught me how important family is because of the fact that she worked so hard. We didn't have a very, I don't want to say not a solid family unit, but we weren't your typical, like everyone sit down at the dinner table. We had too much stuff to do. Like my mom, if it didn't come out of a can or a box, we weren't eating it. She just wasn't that like Susie Homemaker, June Cleaver style, right? Because she was always doing something and always serving the community. So I learned that and what it meant to serve a community, but I was also very, very, my eyes were open to maybe how I want to raise my girls and how I can sort of maybe take a step back and make sure that that is focused on a little more than growing up. Again, good, bad, or indifferent. It taught me both ways, right? It taught me to be very powerful, but also be kind of how I want to mold myself as a mother. So, and then just watching her journey health-wise and as a person and growing up and my dad's passing, how that affected her. So for me, she's always been an inspiration in one way or another, either something I want to carry on with me or those things I want to release and where I want to break this cycle for myself and my children. So she's taught me so much. Some people might be like, oh, that's kind of a bad way to look at it. But I think that's super powerful for her to show me ways that I also want to let go of and break. So it's been a very interesting journey to watch her and still watching her. And she's on my Arbonne 30 day and I'm coaching her. So this has been fun. She's very challenging. She's my most challenging customer. I was like, if I can survive my mother coaching her for 30 days, I can do anybody at this point. So it's been very interesting. But I would say she's probably my biggest inspiration as a woman to see how I want to show up.
That's true about family. If you can challenge your family and coach them, it's a walk in the park.
My sister's like, good luck. I wouldn't do it.
This is part of being live and having a voice. You're meant to ask your close family and your friends what they think. And that was about the most painful thing I ever did. Was to ask.
I'm like, not sure I want to know. Or I told her recently that I was going to get my personal training certification. She's like, oh, awesome. Okay, what does that mean? You know, like, or like, what are you doing, Jaclyn? Like, what do you do? Or, oh yeah, I think I know what you do. It's just, I know she's proud of me, but she definitely challenges me, which is good. It keeps me in my mind how I want to show up.
Who do you see as your best clients or your cream clients? You know, who are you attracting at the moment?
People who want to do the work. Done. Right? Anyone that wants to do the work. Yeah, you have to want to do the work. No, I think for me, who I seem to be attracting now are folks who are in some sort of life transition. So whether it be, they're kind of looking, and this is my tagline for Holistic Badassery, is reset, rediscover, redefine. Because I feel like I'm getting the people, because I'm also in that. Like I mentioned, I'm in the middle of a divorce. I never thought I'd be here. We were together 20 years. Best decision we could have made for ourselves, but still hard, right? So we still go through this life transition. We still talk every day, and I want great things for him and all that good stuff. And then raising kids in there, and what does that look like? We moved to Michigan 3 years ago. So I left all of my community roots and everything I had built for so many years, for 35 years of my life, and moved to a new community. So redefining who I am and how I want to show up. So I feel like I'm attracting those people who are life transition. And that's what I like. I like the people that there's just something that's not clicking for them, or they don't feel at their most confident or their most badass, or whatever you want to call it. And they just need that fire. So I'm a really good fire starter. I'm an Aries. We like fire. I like to start that fire. And then I like to, again, why I partner with other coaches, and I'm always looking for other coaches to partner with. I hand them off, per se, to the experts, because I'm really good at starting that fire and getting people all like, yeah, like I feel totally. And then I'm like, okay, now let's dial in on where you need to work and do the work. That would be XYZ here. Here's resources. I'm super resourceful, and I like to get that fire started. So for me, it's kind of those people who just need that extra little, whatever it might be, rediscovering who they are, resetting, rediscovering, and redefining. And it could be anything. It could be divorce. It could be a change in job. It could be just in general. It could be a mom coming out of raising. I don't know their backstory, because I feel like there's all a connecting piece that we all want to define who we are. So there's not like one over the other, if that makes sense.
Yeah, that's being real. And I love the relate, relearn part, because we're always learning. And the transition you're going through. I'm an Aries, by the way. So
yes, well, I would have guessed. I can feel it, that fire.
It's the challenge here.
Yes, right.
Yes, I took the challenge out, and you took it, and I'm so glad you did. So where you look in terms of the global aspect of connecting, I've become a global director for Market Next, and also for people in terms of property and business solutions. Where do you see the digital connection as being crucial to that? Because we met as a result of being digital. So yes. How important does the digital part of your world affect your business?
It's super important for me, because again, I'm really good at getting connected to folks, whether it be digitally or in person. In person has been actually very challenging for me, believe it or not. Like I'm just now starting to break through that, which is very interesting, because usually I'm all like, oh, when I first got to Michigan, that was kind of a turning point for me, because again, I left everything and everyone behind to move to Michigan for my husband's job. And I was like, oh gosh, I have no connections. Nobody knows who I am. It was kind of nice that nobody knew who I was too. I won't lie. I could kind of stay hidden a little bit and go, okay, how do I want to show up? But then the itch started happening. Like, I'm not connected to my community. So I started like a Facebook group that is now like thousands of people, a newbies group here in Traverse City, because again, I crave that connection and I crave that community. And then, of course, when everything's online and COVID and all that good stuff that's kind of happening, I still feel like it's such an opportunity to then go, okay, how do I expand that? How do I not dial in on just this one group of people? That feels great. And I like being connected to my community. I like seeing familiar faces. But for me, online has been huge, because I can connect with people overseas. I can connect with people. I can spread my message so much wider than ever before. And it's just a great way, I think, to connect to people who are like-minded, because I don't feel like there's I think that's where we kind of get siphoned a little bit, is we feel like our people are only in our one little circle. I like to have a huge circle. Like I like to be connected everywhere, because there's people all over the place that need to know their badassery.
Yes.
I mean, it isn't just here in Traverse City, Michigan by any means.
That's a global message.
It is. Everyone needs to own their badassery. I mean, who doesn't everywhere? I think they do. And I'll get that message out there as I go, as I grow. I just have to be willing to put myself out there. That's the thing.
I'm really enjoying this, as you can see, because of being Aries #1, but because of being,
No
being
surprise.
Welsh #2 and meeting the Celt in you, the Irish part of you. But I've got to sort of tailor it to the end, sadly. So my question to you at the end would be, where's your happy place? Where's Jaclyn, JR's happy place?
My happy place is, now I can confidently say that my happy place is inside of me. So when I can get myself grounded and centered, nothing can stop me. I want to say, oh, my happy place is the gym, or my happy place is with my girls. I mean, I love my children and all, but I also like my time by myself. Let's not lie. But or my happy place is out in nature, whatever it might be. I feel like I can do all those things and be connected, and they make me happy. But at the end of the day, unless I'm grounded and centered, I can continue to do stuff, and then it's just the same cycle. So I feel like my happy place is just really at that core of being within me, honestly, which is so crazy for me to say, because I'm such an outward person and I like being around people and I like being connected. But if I don't stay centered and grounded, you might as well just give me a couple weeks and I'll look real good, and then I just crash and burn. So I got to stay centered and grounded. That's definitely my happy place, more and more as I grow.
That's connected, and that's where we've connected. And the post I put on this morning is back to your right wrist and your left wrist.
Mm-hmm.
I am, because I said start the day with something positive. I am. So I am so pleased, so happy that I've met you.
Same here. I love it. I love it. Anyone that lets me talk about anything that I want to talk about, I'm all for it. Hey, I want to be a speaker, right? That's my end goal, one of my end goals. So, hey, anytime I can have a platform.
So it's the right attitude, it's the good attitude, and you want to spread your message. And that's another great attitude. So is there anything you'd like to say before we go?
I think just keep shining that badassery, discover what it is, what it looks like. Stop. If no one asks you, then stop and ask yourself, what do you want? Why do you want it? And how do you get it? Kind of just come up with a plan and find support. Start connecting to people. There are people out there that can help you in some way, myself included. And if I can't help you, I always tell people, I'm like, I call them, everyone calls them connection calls. Yeah. I call them no bullshit calls. That's what I call them. I call them my no bullshit calls, because it's an honest conversation of how do you want to show up and what does that look like? And if I can't help you, then let me connect you with someone that might be able to. Or maybe you don't need to connect to someone at all. You just need to take 10 minutes of quiet time to figure it out. That not everyone's going to always have the solution. So it's all this kind of discovering and being open-minded, open heart to kind of what's out there. And I feel like those are the people that I'm attracting and what I kind of want to get out there. So if anyone wants to connect on a no bullshit call, as I like to call them, they can always check me out. JaclynRoof.com, super simple, is my website. I like to keep it simple. And I just want to spread my message. So I'm looking for people who just want to connect and figure out what that next step is. Because I'm not sure that I have the solution, but I can darn guarantee you that I can find something for each person.
That's a lovely farewell part of this show.
Right.
Because it's nice to be able to say to the audience, connect if you have this, have that, because somebody here with a shining light, with such a huge message in front of you here, even though the other side of the pond there.
I love it. I so wish I could pull that off by saying the side of the pond. If I said that, people would be like, what are you talking about? I love it. I love it. Sometimes I wish I could just pull that out. It'd be okay.
So stay connected. Stay connected.
Yes, for sure.
Have a lovely rest of the day.
Thank you. You too.
You can open the curtains and.
Well, the sun isn't even out. It's still dark here. It's super dark. It won't get light here probably for another hour and a half.
Well, your energy is high, so enjoy it. Thank you so much, Jaclyn, JR.
Thank you. Thank you.
And you too. Bye.
Bye.